Designed to fix slow refilling, running, and noisy toilets, the Quirky Quiet Fill Toilet Fill Valve is more than 2 times quieter than other fill valves. It replaces old technology such as ball cocks. It has a universal design to fit all brands and features a wide range of adjustability to fit most 2-piece and 1-piece toilets. The Quirky Quiet Fill Valve is very easy to install and adjust. No tools are required.
We'll show you how to replace the flush valve for your Champion toilet. After turning off the water supply and removing the tank from the bowl, remove the hairpin and the clevis pin to release the bead chain from the trip lever. Remove the refill tube clip from the overflow tube and allow it to hang inside the tank. On the underside of the tank, loosen the tank nut with a wrench and remove the nut and gasket. Pull the flush valve out from the inside of the tank and replace it with a new flush valve body. While holding the flush valve in place, attach the gasket, then the nut, and tighten. Hold the bead chain loop up to the trip lever arm so you can push the clevis pin through the trip lever and bead chain. Then secure it with the hairpin. Finally, push the refill clip onto the refill tube and reinstall the tank, then turn on the water and check for leaks.
Toilet fill valve is a common repair required on all toilets. You'll need a couple of items: a wrench to disconnect the water supply, and a small bucket or bowl to catch the water left in the tank. Check to see that the required parts are included with the fill valve: the mounting nut, the metal clip that attaches the refill tube, the tamper-proof locking clip, and the adjuster key that's used to set the refill ratio key. The replacement procedure is straightforward. First, remove the tank lid and set it aside. But be careful, you don't want a broken lid. Next, turn off the water supply and flush the toilet, and hold the lever open for 10 to 15 seconds to completely drain the tank. Now, put the bowl in place and disconnect the water supply line. Remove the nut that holds the fill valve in place. This may take the wrench. 6. Unhook the refill tube from the metal clip and remove the old fill valve. Now you're ready to install the new valve and adjust it to work with your particular toilet. To identify the model number of your toilet, take a look at our video on identifying your model number. Adjusting the height of the valve and obtaining the proper refill ratio are 2 critical steps, and Toto has made it easy and straightforward. In the instructions that are packed with the valve, you'll find a fill chart that will help you adjust the valve to match your particular toilet. First, in order to set the height, hold the bottom of the valve with one hand and turn the top of the valve counterclockwise until it stops. Extend it to the proper height by pulling the top section up. The height is determined by the number of pegs that you found on the fill chart that matches your toilet. For example, this toilet is model ST454E, and the correct number of pegs is 4. So we'll extend the valve 4 pegs and turn the upper half clockwise to lock it in place. You'll feel it snap in place when the rib on the top lines up with the pegs on the bottom. Since the valve height is so important for proper operation, Toto supplies a tamper-proof locking clip to keep it from changing accidentally. Okay, here's how you set the proper refill amount. To set the adjuster dial, first shut it all the way off by turning it counterclockwise. Then use the adjuster key that comes with the valve to set the refill ratio key that matches your model. Our model ST454E has a key setting of 4. Hold key 4 in place like this and open the adjuster dial clockwise until the radius of the dial's edge hits the stopping post of the key. To install the pre-adjusted valve in the tank, make sure it doesn't touch the back of the tank or interfere with the trip lever arm. Hand tighten the mounting nut and turn it an extra quarter turn. Don't over-tighten. Attach the refill tube to the valve and make sure the port is locked in place by pushing on the tube. Then, connect the refill tube to the overflow tube using the metal clip. Reconnect the water supply. Turn the water back on and check for leaks. It is normal to see water flowing from these 3 areas. Here, here, and here. There is nothing wrong with your new valve. All good? Now you can flush and see whether the toilet refills to the proper level. If it's too low, turn the dial clockwise to increase the flow. If the water level is too high, turn it counterclockwise to reduce it. Once you get it where you want it, you're done. Good job.
Step will be to empty the water from the toilet tank. To do this, first shut off the water source and then flush the toilet. Once the toilet tank is drained, start by removing the existing water supply line from the tank. Next, remove the lock nut that's holding the current fill valve in place. You may want to have some towels or a bucket handy to catch any remaining water that may leak out during this step. Now, from the top of the tank, remove the existing fill valve assembly. Now we need to adjust the fill valve to the correct height. Your new fill valve adjusts easily and securely to the correct height by following these steps. First, pull down the safety ring. Next, twist the shank and pull down to adjust the height. Lock the shaft back into place by simply turning the shank and replacing the safety ring. Repeat this process until you reach the desired height. To determine the correct height for your tank, first locate the CL, critical level mark found on the side of your fill valve. When the fill valve is installed, this mark should be at least 1 inch above the top of the overflow pipe, per plumbing code requirements. Removing only the lock nut, insert the threaded end of the valve through the hole in the toilet. Screw the lock nut onto the shank and gently tighten, being careful not to over-tighten. Disconnect the flapper chain from the flush lever. Now, we will need to separate the tank from the toilet bowl. Using the necessary tools, remove the hardware attaching the tank to the bowl. Once the hardware is removed, carefully lift the tank and lay the tank on its side. Removing the old flush valve consists of first, removing the tank to bowl gasket. Then, removing the lock nut behind it. The lock nut is easiest removed with the proper lock nut wrench, as shown here. On the new Keeney flush valve, remove the large nut. The Keeney flush valve features a flapper with a timing cone that allows you to customize your flush. Rotate the timing cone hole to the front of the flapper to put it into water-saving mode. Rotate the timing cone hole to the back for increased flush performance. You can also select a setting anywhere between the performance and water saver settings by simply rotating the timing cone to any position in between. Place the new flush valve into position and tighten the lock nut, being careful not to over-tighten. Place the new tank to bowl gasket onto the flush valve. Make sure the gasket sits firmly and evenly all around. Now, reposition the tank on top of the bowl and reassemble using the new hardware, making sure that the tank is level and secure, but do not over-tighten. Over-tightening could cause your tank or bowl to crack. Reconnect the water supply line, hand tightening only. Push or pull the Keeney no-cut overflow tube of the flush valve to adjust the height so that the top is no more than 3/4 of an inch above the water line. Now we need to install the overflow tube. Place one end of the overflow tube onto the fill valve assembly. Stick the other end into the overflow pipe. Cut the overflow tube just long enough to reach into the overflow pipe without being stretched or kinked. Attach the flapper chain to the tank lever, allowing for a slight amount of play in the chain. Now, turn on the water and check for leaks at all connection points. To adjust the water level, simply perform the following. Depress the push button on the side of the float and raise or lower the float until the desired water level is achieved. Adjust the shutoff point to match the level on the flush valve or the toilet tank wall. If the water level is not marked, adjust the shutoff at least 1 inch below the top of the overflow tube. You may need to flush the toilet a few times to reach the desired water level in the tank.